Hi everybody!
Hello.
This is a very bittersweet video because, well, it's sweet in the sense that we're going to talk about what we do for a living, mostly what this guy does for a living, and it's pretty cool. We'll get to that in a moment, but it's very bitter because he is leaving me tomorrow for 3 months.
Ouch.
It's the longest time he's gone. It's every year at this time of year. And he is gone for 3 months, and it's very hard because not only is he gone, but we can't talk at all except for maybe Fridays or Saturdays. So let's get on to what you do. This is Brandt, my husband, by the way.
Hi, everybody.
Let's go ahead and talk about what you do. Can you just say what it is you do for a living and then what this particular job is?
Yes. What I do for a living, in general, I'm a certified scuba instructor, and I've been doing that since 2007, so almost 10 years now. What I'm doing specifically now, and what I do every year from January to April, is I work for a man who takes people snorkeling with humpback whales off the coast of the Dominican Republic, which is where they go to mate and give birth. So for this time, they actually start arriving earlier, like usually the end of November or mid-December is when they start arriving. But we'll be there during their concentrated period of time. And it's the North Atlantic, so they're the ones that come up from like Nova Scotia and Norway. And they travel all the way down. So we take people out. We leave on Saturday from Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic. We leave Saturday night, usually midnight. It takes about 10 hours. It's about 90 miles off the coast.
Through very rough seas.
Yes, it's a very open ocean. And then there is a kind of a shelf that comes up. So it goes from very, very deep water, thousands of feet deep, to about 100 feet deep on average. And
because it's a reef, there's a coral reef out there.
Right, yeah, exactly. And humpback whales are coastal animals, so they like shallow water. They will travel through deep water, but they are not like sperm whales that hang out in really deep water, or blue whales that hang out in really deep water. Humpback whales prefer to be in shallower waters. So nobody knows why, but they found this area to be a place where they like to congregate, and the mothers like to raise their calves there to get them strong enough to head up north, and then the men go down there to get on with all the females that are in estrus.
So there's mating, there's birthing, there is courting, and this it's a 25 square mile reef, correct?
Yeah.
And so it's a big reef, and I got the chance to go last year for a week, which was unlike any experience I've had in my life. I don't even know how to. It almost felt like a bizarre dream, but it was just amazing.
Yeah.
And well, I'll let you finish, and then I have a blog about it actually on my website where I talk about the whole thing. It's a big long blog that I wrote last year. Yeah. I'll put a link to it below.
No, it's a really well written blog, and it actually got included or added to the
Aquatic Adventures.
I think Aquatic Adventures shared it, or
Aquatic Adventures is the company
that
does this. So just to let everybody know, there are only 3 companies, is that correct, that are allowed?
So it's the reef is a protected area during this part of the year. The rest of the year it is open for fishing and things like that. But during this time of year, there's no fishing allowed, there's no lines or nets or anything like that allowed. I have to get a license to enter the park. And yes, right now there are 3 operators. There's 3 licenses available, and I think there's a 4th one that's for research or schools or something like that. The man I work for in his company, Aquatic Adventures, is one, and then there's 2 other ones. One is Conscious Breath, and then the other one is an aggressor dive boat one. They don't have their own humpback whale company, they're just a dive boat that comes out there.
But word is that Aquatic Adventures is the best.
Well, the guy that I work for has been doing it, I believe this is his 27th year that he'll be doing it. He helped write out a whole bunch of the laws that are protecting the humpback whales down there. He's mastered a technique in which we use to approach a humpback whale, get into the water with a humpback whale. Practices used so that we don't the whole purpose is so that the humpback whale has an interaction with you and you have an interaction with it. We're not trying to jump on top of a humpback whale.
You don't chase them.
We don't chase them at all.
Don't chase them. If the whales are not interested, they leave them alone.
You go out in the morning on a smaller tender that's towed behind the bigger boat, and you look for whales. And every interaction that we get, every time we put somebody in the water with a humpback whale, it's on an understanding that both we and the humpback whales are agreeing to be in that same space at that same time. And there's never a time when the humpback whale leaves us that we then go after it. And that actually adds to a better experience, because when the humpback whale's choosing to interact with you, which they truly do, not only is it obvious, but it makes it that much more special and meaningful, because you're not thrusting yourself into a situation where you're not wanted and they're just putting up with you. They actually come up, they're actually coming to you and checking you out and looking at you, and it's very, very hard to find words to explain.
And when we went, like you were talking about, there are very rough seas to get out there. I mean, I've never been in anything. I mean, it wasn't like Deadliest Catch fishing or anything like that.
It's not like 50-foot seas, but it could be 10 to 12.
It was crazy. I didn't even get seasick. I was really proud of myself. I did take Dramamine, but I also looked out at the horizon the whole time. And we crossed during the day, which normally they cross during the night.
Yeah, normally we leave Saturday night, but when you came out, we left Sunday morning just because it was too rough. And we made a decision to wait because it's not worth it to go out there. The boat would be fine, but just everybody would be bouncing around for 10 hours.
I thought it was way better because when we finally got out to the reef, and you can tell because suddenly you know about how long it takes to get out there, and then you see somebody yelling, "Oh, I saw one!" And then so everybody goes up on the sun deck, and it looks like they're waving at you to come in, and they're breaching. It almost looks like pretty unbelievable. So anyway, that all the guests and the little tender boats are tied to, it anchors up pretty much in the middle of the reef. And
yeah, there's a protected area. The only reason really that we can go out to this specific bank, it's the Silver Bank. Why we can go to that one is that it has a bunch of pillar coral, anywhere from 100 feet down to just under the surface to maybe 20 feet under the surface, and there's thousands of them, and that's one of the navigational hazards every day when we're driving in the smaller boats. We're looking for whales, but you also have to watch out to not go over all these thousands of pillar coral structures.
Yeah, you can see them like just under the surface. They look like domes of green or something. It's really cool.
But the area that we tie onto is protected by kind of this horseshoe-shaped collection of a bunch of different pillar corals that kind of adds as breakwater. So you can see just past them, like you can have pretty high seas, but that protection makes it so that it's not as rough for us. And that's what you moor up to one of the pillar corals that's underwater. So there's no anchors around. Nothing is tore up or destroyed by doing that.
That reef has been overfished.
Yeah.
It seems like it's coming back.
Yeah, it has. Since they've changed, the coral was very close to being destroyed by fishing practices in the past, whether it was dynamite fishing or there's another practice that people used to use back in the day where they'd go down and just pump the reef full of ammonia, and then it would just kill all the fish in it.
Oh my god.
So it was effective in killing fish, but
how long ago was that?
Like in the 60s?
Yeah.
Maybe even the 70s? The first time that I went out to the Silver Bank was in 2007, and it's been 9 years, and it looks better. It's noticeably better than it was 9 years ago. So that's, it's going to take time, but it's moving in the right direction. So that's good. But the coral doesn't really affect the humpback whales because they don't feed while they're down there. So it doesn't matter if there's a lot of fish or no fish. This whole 3-month period of time, they're not eating. That's not to say that if like a big group of mackerel or sardines came by that they wouldn't try to eat them, but it's just they fill up during the winter, the spring and summer, the summer and winter seasons up north, eating thousands of pounds of fish a day. And then when they come down here, they kind of fast and lose all that weight. And then when they're ready, they go back up north and feed again. The
mothers lose incredible amounts of weight because they're nursing. So you can see their spinal, the bones kind of jutting out.
Their caudal peduncles.
The caudal peduncles. So the story that I wanted to tell about how the whales really are interested in us and actually do want to be around us. There was that time you were driving, I think, the tender, and there was a mother and calf below us. So first of all, I'm terrified of deep water, so it took a lot for me to do this, but I did it. And you're with a group and you just float. It's all snorkel. There's no dive. It's all snorkel. So you just bob and float at the surface. It was stressful for me, but I still wanted to get in the water and see it, because this was it felt like once in a lifetime experience. Although hopefully I'll be able to go back again in the future.
Yeah.
But it was just once the whales were there, it calmed me down, and I wasn't. My breathing was really, but then I just had to tell myself to relax. There are people around you too, so there's about 10 people with you. I stayed with you the first 2 days.
Right.
I didn't leave your side. I was just like right there. There's some funny footage that.
The whale would come up, you position yourself over the top of the whale. So if you can imagine the whale's down, they don't rest on the bottom, but let's say you're in 100 feet of water, they're like 20 feet above the sea floor, and then you're, above them. So there's like 80 feet. Sometimes it changes, it just depends. But anyways, so if the whale's here, we're on the surface floating, you try to position yourself up by their head, and you just try to stay in one place, and they can stay down anywhere from 13 to 15 to 22 minutes, but when they start to come up and breathe, they tend to come up right in front of you, and every time that would happen,
you see the eye right in front of you.
they turn and they look at you.
Oh, it's so
But
cool.
the first couple times, or the first couple days, every time that would happen, Allegra would be at my side. As it started to come up, she would position me and position me in front of her and just kind of look over my shoulder.
That was the first day we were in the water. One came right by us, and then it was a escort me or two adults, and the other one you saw. He said, "I don't know how you just saw it kick its."
Yeah, we were
tail.
it was the very, very first day that you got there.
That was crazy.
It was our first encounter in the water, and it was a female and a male. So the terminology is the escort. The male is the escort, and then the female. And the escort came up first and went to check everybody out. And then the escort started to go down, and when he went down, she kicked twice and took off. And I've seen it before, so I told everybody, look out this direction, she's gonna breach. And sure enough,
she breached in the water with us in the water with her. She was seriously, 100 feet away?
Well, if you think, yeah, she was probably, let's just say for sake of argument, she's 45 feet long. Yeah, she's probably at least 100 feet away. So it was far enough away to where there was no obvious danger to anybody, but it's also close enough to who's been in the water?
We had to get back in the boat.
Who's been in the water with a breaching humpback whale? You want them to be 100 feet away when they do that.
Yeah, and you're not even allowed to be in the water if there's any surface activity at all.
Anytime, nothing, I've never been into the water when a whale has gotten aggressive. There's been one instance, and it wasn't with us, it was years ago, where somebody actually got hurt and had to go back to shore. Like a male and a female, and another male comes in, and then they'll start like lob-tailing or fin slapping, or anytime there's surface activity like that, you obviously have to get out of the water because you don't want a 40-ton animal landing on top of you.
Yeah. But anyway, with the other interaction was you were driving, and we were in the water with a mother and a calf.
Oh yeah.
And then you called us back in the boat, and you're like, yeah, they went away. I guess they didn't want to be around us. They swam off. So we all got back in the little boat, and then he was like, wait a minute. No, get back in.
That's not what happened at all.
Darn it. You tell it then.
So you guys were in the water with a mother and a calf, and the mother would stay down for like 15 minutes, but the calf would come up every 2 minutes or so because they need to breathe. Their lungs are smaller, so they need to breathe more. More often, thank you. But, so you were in the water, and I was in the boat, so everybody's in the water, and I just kind of hang back in the boat, and I was looking around, and I saw another mother and calf coming out of the distance, and they were heading straight for us. And that can sometimes, again, like I just said previously, like anytime, whales are usually solitary, minus the mother and calf, or every once in a while there's a male, but they don't travel in pods like orcas do or dolphins. So sometimes when you have like a set of whales and another set of whales comes in, it can get all crazy and, surface activity can happen. So, so I was watching them come in and I was telling whoever the guide was, I think it was probably Pippa.
Yeah.
I was telling Pippa, there's another, just be aware there's another mother and calf coming in. And what happened was the mother and calf that you guys were over, like sensed that they were coming, they left, and this new set just came right in and then just kind of parked, and then you had a new mother and calf,
right.
While the other one left. So we've had that happen before, and we kind of jokingly say it's like the mothers are so exhausted from chasing around these 5-ton babies everywhere that they just want to rest. And so if they can find us, mom can park herself underneath us and the baby can be entertained and she can get,
She's
some
like,
sleep.
Please babysit my kid.
But that's not the first time that that's happened to me.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's happened a couple times. So it's stuff like that. Like when people ask, one of the biggest questions I get when I tell people what I do, not the diving part, but this humpback whale tours, they kind of look at it as, why do people always have to thrust themselves? I use thrust again.
Yeah.
Why do people always have to put themselves into, a scenario that they're not wanted? Like, why do we feel the need to see something happening and just go in there and be a part of it? In the United States, you have laws where you have to stay 200 yards or 200 meters away from whales, for example. And if you approach them, you can get in a lot of trouble. Down in this part of the world, in the Dominican Republic, they don't have those kind of rules specifically for this reason. But again, like I said, you're not just going and throwing yourself into a scenario that you don't want. And this example of a mother and calf pushing away another mother and calf so that they can go right underneath you and hang out is a perfect example of that. You just put yourself in the scenario or the surroundings and then have them come to you, it's a much better feeling, because there are some operators around the world that are a little bit more aggressive in these kind of scenarios. Through experience, that the best encounters are the ones where you just put yourself out there and let them come to you, and it works. I mean, there are people that come every single year for the last 10 or 15 years. It sells out all the time. You get all sorts of different people. You get photographers who are looking for that shot. You get people that are like thrill seekers and want to do some big animal interactions. You get people that are very spiritual, that just want to be out there for interacting with nature and nothing else. There's no cell phones, there's no internet.
That's why we can't talk during the week. So when they come back in,
exactly.
We're able to talk a little bit on the phone. And
as a crew member is working, like you come in Friday evening and then you leave again Saturday. So that's the time that you have to talk. And there's a couple hour time difference as well. So you have to fit in like everything that happened in that week from the last time you talked into an hour-long conversation.
So we're not comparing ourselves to people who like are separated, like people in the military or anything like that. But or people who have jobs that take you away, for Welsh fishermen, whatever.
Right.
That it's what we do, and so it kind of fits in with our lifestyle and the things that we talk about. We are separated for that period of time, but when you're back, you're back.
Exactly.
So it's not like you have a 9-to-5 job 5 days a week where I only see you a couple hours at night.
Right.
So there's a trade-off. And
the weekends and then, 2 hours on the weekdays.
Right. And I will get into the topic that kind of Julie and I talked about over the summer and have talked about before, but the multiple streams of income idea that I'll talk about in other videos, but we have more than one job each.
Right.
So the way we make our living is it's multiple streams of income. And I think that's kind of the way of the future, at least for some people or people who are living kind of like we are.
Right. If I had a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't be able to do this, which is one of the greatest things besides marrying Allegra. One of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, and allowing people or facilitating people who have never been in the ocean before. And every year is different for me. Like when I first started, I was all about, I wanted to be in the water with the whales as much as possible, and I wanted to see everything that I could. And then it's slowly starting to change. I still love that, of course, but it's more becoming seeing how other people react. Having Allegra out there last year was awesome because I got to see everything through her eyes, and watching somebody who, not terrified, but is very uncomfortable in deep water and breathing as hard as she was, but then having the whale come up and that all kind of changes. And her breathing became more normal. And you even told me at one point you forced yourself to breathe normal because you didn't want to
upset the whales.
The whales, yeah.
That's right. I felt like I was in their home and I needed to calm down.
But no, you did great. It was not obvious to anybody that you were not comfortable in the water.
I'm a good faker.
But yeah, if I had a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't be able to do this. And it is very hard leaving Allegra for this amount of time and mentally preparing for it. And the last couple of days get really, somber because you're going to leave. But at the same time, being gone for this amount of time allows it, you just said, when I come back, that I'm back for a while. When I'm out there, it's not like I don't spend my money on anything. I don't, the food is covered and, it's like room and board. And so there's not a lot of money going out and there's money coming in. So that can allow us to live in this humble situation that we've chosen to do so. But again, we chose that. It's not like we are choosing these steps so that we can live the way that we want to live. If we wanted like a real house or a apartment or something, then we would have to get different jobs and that would be a different choice. But the fact that we can, you doing all the different things that you do, me doing all the different jobs. And that's the thing, when I am working, I'm working away. So the last couple of years, at least once a year, if not twice, I'll go out and do some diving in the Turks and Caicos on a dive boat.
But that's only for like a month at a time, which is no big deal.
Yeah, a month or 6 weeks. So after 3 months, 4 to 6 weeks, it's a cakewalk.
And so Brandt is gone maybe 3 times a year. So there's the long one, the 3-month one, and then 2 to 3 other 1 month or 6 week ones.
Right.
So
the guy that I work for does another trip in July. It's much shorter. It's 2 4-day trips. And it's in Isla Mujeres off the eastern coast of Mexico, north of Cancun. And we snorkel with
whale sharks.
Whale sharks, yes, thank you. So that's very, very short. I mean, that's a week and a half that I'm gone. If I can do the humpback whale trip for 3 months, 1 4 to 6 week trip in the Turks and Caicos for diving, and then the 10-day trip in Isla Mujeres, that tends to be, for our budget-wise, that tends to be good.
Yeah, with my jobs and the things that I'm doing, with all that together, it's turning out pretty good.
Right.
So yeah. So if you want more information, I'll put some links below this video. If you're interested in going on the trip, Aquatic Adventures is the company, and you will get to meet Brandt. He's very fun, and the crew is great. They are just amazing. The food is outstanding.
Yes.
Food and drinks provided.
Nobody ever leaves hungry or thirsty.
No.
Think about being out on the ocean and having humpback whales swimming around you and watching them breach, and at the same time you're eating a fresh pineapple and the sun is out. And does it get better than this?
Yeah.
And then it does, because then you get into the water with them. It's a crazy. It's something that I definitely did not know until I started doing it, that it was even a thing that people did. I didn't know that it was a job. I didn't know that it was a destination. I'd never heard about it before.
All kinds of crazy jobs out there.
Yeah. So it's just, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's just using the random knowledge that you've picked up along the way into a specific thing. And it's also about the people you know.
Yeah. So I'll put those links below, and then also check out my blog about my trip last year. I'll put that link below, and I'll put the link to Aquatic Adventures. And if you have any questions, we'll do our best to educate and keep people informed about it. It's like once in a lifetime kind of trip. I describe it as a combination of stress and elation at the same time, which I don't know how that's possible, but
I think that's what adds to the positive aspect of it is being so like nervous and that stress, but then having something amazing happen. At the end of the day, you'll sit up on the sun deck and you'll watch the sunset and you'll have your cocktail and you just kind of replay like what happened that day. Like, it's so unreal. Even for me, like to be in the water and have like a calf come up to you and like look you right in the eye and show you its belly, and or having there's so many different encounters, but at the end of the day, like it's so hard at the time to process like that this is even
you don't even know
happening.
At the time you can't really go through it all in your mind. It takes about a week or two after you get back to be like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Because it's like you wake up in the morning and you eat breakfast real fast, you get on the boat and you're on the boat for a couple hours, you come back for lunch, you do that, and then you go back out on the boat again and you get off the boat, and now it's happy hour and there's appetizers and cocktails, and then it's dinner, and then there's a presentation, and then suddenly it's 9 o'clock and you're absolutely exhausted. So then you go to bed and you wake up and it's just time to go. It's a vacation, but it's a, it's an experience. It's a lifetime experience that is so worth it. Right. So it's definitely not I'm just going to chill out and get some sun vacation. But anyway, I hope that was interesting and that kind of fits into... I was totally manspreading this whole video. He is such a woman hater. There you go. Now you know what it's like to be a woman. This is so uncomfortable. All right. I hope that was good, and let us know if you have any questions. I can't think of anything else to say. No. I'll see you guys when I get back. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.